Kill Chain.
Kill Chain. Some awesome James Bond movie music I got playing. Oh, I could have got the movie music for it. That would have been. I think that's Mission Impossible. Hi, and welcome to Seattle's number one comic book podcast. This is the podcast dedicated to the first issue of your next favorite comic, and I'm Larry.
I'm James.
Not
Bond. James Fitz.
Episode 112. This is James Bond, Kill Chain.
They call me Fitz. James Fitz.
But before we dive into James Bond 007 Kill Chain, there's the other O. The other O is his name.
I was just gonna say this cover is top notch.
I love this cover, and
it's sleek. We'll get to it.
We'll get to it. But before we dive into James Bond Kill Chain, I want to talk about a recent and decent, and I'm chomping to talk about this, James.
What do you got, Larry?
I'm going to put some surfer rock to it, but it doesn't call for surfer rock. This is a love story.
Is that what it's called?
It is called... It is called A Sea of Love.
A Sea of Love.
And it is a graphic novel that I found on Amazon. I paid $22 for it on Amazon, and I am super happy with the hardcover version of this. It's spot varnish with embossed lettering on it.
Nice.
And it's
You've been sowing the Sea of Love.
Yeah, and it is beautiful to look at, and it is such a cute, fun, adventurous story of a fisherman who man. A fisherman who every day goes out to see
what he can see,
and he leaves his doting wife back at home. And one day he doesn't come back. He gets caught up in an adventure.
Classic. Waiting for her man every day, going to the port and looking out for the ship that may never come.
She doesn't continue to do that. She
she moves on.
She goes to a mystic and chases the breadcrumbs to Cuba.
Oh, she's no.
And
the Oedipus's wife.
They both have these wonderful adventures back and forth, and the book and the storytelling is completely silent. There are no word bubbles.
There's no words.
And it's fantastic. 213 pages. It is published from...
I really like this now, Larry.
Google, it is available on Comixology, not Comixology Unlimited, but I wouldn't suggest buying it there. I would go for the hardcover because the packaging is so stellar. I said, it's got spot varnish, it's got embossed raised lettering, and it is from a company called Lion Forge Comics, 213 pages. It was written by Wilfred Lopano and Gregory Panacheneo. Panache. I knew I'd mess it up. Panache. Anyway. Panache. And it is... Panache. It is fantastic. It's so cute.
Sea of Love has real panache.
Yes, it is so good. I loved it so much. James, set us up with James Bond. Let's talk about this cover, though.
Oh, James Bond. For those of you who don't know, he's a secret agent. He works for MI6.
MI6.
I almost said 5. He's the spy. Well, he's the. I was gonna say he's the spy who shagged me. But that's the other guy. He's the smooth talking ladies' man. gets the job done, doesn't care, cares a little bit about killing people, but
he's got a license to
purpose
kill.
He's serving. Yeah, exactly, Larry.
So
he has a license to kill.
This came out
it's like the classic spy double agent genre.
Yeah. And this came out in 2017. It was published by Dynamite. Say it, James.
Dynamite.
And it was written by, gosh, what's with the names tonight? Luca Casalingada, and Andy Dingle.
Casalanguida.
Yeah.
Guida.
That was
Dirk Diggle.
Yeah, and Andy Diggle. This cover is fantastic.
Yeah, it's probably cover of the year so far.
I think so too. It just looks like one of the classic old dime novel covers. It's just great. It looks like it should almost have a little fade to it.
It's Bond with his classic. Is it the PP? Is it the PP7?
I don't know guns.
Know guns that well.
I'm gonna say it's a PP7.
I think that's the one, just from playing GoldenEye enough times. I think that's the go-to. But it's got two elements that I really like. One is the way that James Bond is on the top, that it's written out, is kind of these cool, regular, pretty blocky letters, but with a little style to them. But then the 0 in Bond segues perfectly into a nice little 007. And it makes a chain. This is the arc, James Bond, kill chain.
Neat. I think that's very neat too. And
then the actual art of it, I was really hoping it would look exactly like this on the inside. And I'm not saying that it doesn't. It does have a little more detail, but he looks, it's very realistic. It's not photorealistic. It's got some great shading, some great details, and then there's this like wisp of smoke that's coming from his gun that turns kind of subtly, but not too subtly, into hands over his shoulder.
Yeah.
It's very classily done.
Yes. And it's blue.
Yeah, it's kind of black and blue. Yeah.
It is
He's
great.
wearing a tuxedo.
Yeah, it is great. It's a great cover. And
he's got a serious look in his eyes, but not concerned.
Yeah, it's almost like he's like in hot pursuit.
Exactly.
Like,
but also he just shot his gun.
Yeah. It looks great. I like this cover. I'm going to say the cover is the best part of this first issue. Let's get into it.
All right. So it starts off. I didn't really get this intro, but it was more just like, did you get what was happening right at the beginning?
No, I did not get what was happening at the beginning, but we have two
like people in the Arctic or something. They're wearing like real heavy clothes, and they're talking about how like ancient people used to hunt down a bigger target, and this guy like takes 2 rocks and he makes a knife out of it.
Yeah, I think that's metaphor for something. I didn't quite get this. It's a setup.
Yeah.
It's not the setup I wanted for the character that I love so much in the films and in the books. I've read a couple of the books. I want that heart-pounding.
Yeah, I want to start with action.
This was a little slow, and I think this is like our ancestors were in this same neighborhood fighting mammoth. Big deal, you know. I don't know. I
didn't really get it. But I did actually. I went back and forth while I was reading this whether or not I liked the art, and whether or not I really liked the art. Like I would go and be like, "This art's okay," and then be like, "No, this is very good." Like it's very functional art. But like, we'll get to some of the action scenes where it's like the scene is good, but it doesn't it doesn't transfer between panels that well, or like it doesn't segue as well as I think. I'm not sure what's missing, but it's like a step away from being really good.
Right. And so we have these two guys talking about our ancestors fighting with rocks or fighting mammoth with And there's there's a little metaphor, and I bet you if you read all 6 issues, there's probably a callback to that. But we're just talking about the first issue.
And we don't really know about those characters. But anyway, that's just the first 2 pages.
First 2 pages. The next couple pages are...
Bond is in a fight with a sexy lady. She's in like a black long sleeve shirt and high boots. And there's a little bit of sexual innuendo going back and forth. Like, I'm just getting warmed up and I would get to be on top. And that kind of James Bond back and forth where they're adversaries, but they're both double agents. And so they're both trying to trick each other into being on each other's team and not being on each other's team, which is fun. Like, if you're reading a James Bond, you need to have this scene.
Right.
What did you think about her? She's fine.
She's fine. She's fine.
She's fine, but she's not fine.
Well, the artist is doing something here with, like, he takes me out of he tries like a different art style with that black heavy chalk over for shading.
Yeah, really heavy shading.
And it doesn't, I don't know if it quite works there. It almost looks like mistakes.
Yeah, it kind of disguises the characters a little bit too much, and it doesn't really work for her. It doesn't make her very attractive. And I'm not a big silver-haired fox type of guy anyway. But yeah, it does seem like, so then they kiss, but it doesn't go any further, but there's kind of the innuendo that it does.
Because she's in the shower.
She's in the shower, and while she's in the shower, he's up to some investigating. And so he like takes the painting off the wall and there's a code for a safe behind it. And
3913.
He gets the thing out and, kind of looks over his shoulder. But you're right. In that panel, it's like, you can't even really tell what he could be any character if there were any other characters for him to get confused with.
Right. This is a lot of, same face happening.
Mm.
And he, like, the way that this is sequenced, he looks like the bad guy here.
Yeah, he does. And then so she comes out of the shower and finds a flower and that says duty calls, and he's off. Classic one night, whatever you want to call it.
One night fling.
Yeah. But she makes a phone call saying he bought it. So whatever was in that safe was supposed to be found by him, and he's a double agent, she's a triple agent, or what, she's a step ahead of him, or so we think.
And she's got the equipment to, like, get his, stats.
Fingerprints, and, like, she knows that he pressed the code, and, yeah, she knows, yeah, she has his stats, and I did think that it was actually kind of a cool way of, like, these 2 pages, even though I don't really like the art that much, I think the sequencing was good. Like, the paneling was kind of cool.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it was really close.
It misses the mark, for me, and I don't know how to fix it because James Bond is so near and dear that, like, every time I see a James Bond movie, if it doesn't play out the way I want it to play out, I want that action, I want some, like, crazy stunts at the beginning. We get some crazy stunts coming up.
Yeah.
And then like a silly quip in the middle of something, Like,
yeah, I mean, we got the silly quip and we got the back and forth punching, but it wasn't that great of action between the two of them. It was just like a punch and then he's on top of her, she's on top of him, a kiss, and you get that in your 2 pages.
Yeah, I mean, it could be this entire book, in my opinion, should have been that action. But instead of this sort of setup, I don't even know what I think the crime here or the mystery is that, there's some
data.
There's some data gone missing, and we find out that she is, she's triple agent.
With the Russians trying to sell MI6 information to the Americans.
There you go.